Read the context. It says, and talking about Noah, it says, and all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So the time that we're getting ready to talk about, the 3.5 years that lead up to the day of the Lord, which we already understand the day of the Lord and what's going to happen. The day of darkness, the day of the trumpet, the day of God's wrath. These are the 3.5 years that are going to lead up to it. And so I'm going to take you through a few versions of what certain writers or certain books in the Bible talk about this time. Now, Matthew, he calls it great tribulation. Look what he says. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So that means basically what? This is going to be the worst time ever in the history of the world, before it and after it. There will never be nothing like it again. And he says, and except those days should be shortened, guess what? It would be just like the days of Noah, wouldn't it?
Yes.
There should what? No flesh be saved. In other words, if God just put himself out of the equation, you know what man would do to himself eventually?
Destroy.
He would. Every human being would eventually die. We'd kill off ourselves. But he says, for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. In the Gospel of Mark, he puts it this way. Matthew calls it great tribulation, but Mark says, in those days shall be what? Affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created unto this time, neither shall be. And except the Lord had shortened those days, again, he says, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he has shortened the days. Yes. All right, so Matthew calls it great tribulation. Mark calls it affliction. Look what Luke says. He says, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. He says, but woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great what? Stress. So we have great tribulation, we have affliction, and now we have, Luke calls it great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led He's talking about Israel here, right? They shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem here shall be what? Trodden down of the Gentiles. That's going to tell you something about, and we'll talk about this, that's going to tell you something that's going to happen these last 3.5 years. That Jerusalem, and we already understand, we've talked about this before, who's going to be ruling from Jerusalem those last 3.5 years? The Antichrist, right? And he's going to rule until the time of the Gentiles be what?
Complete.
And when does that happen? At the seventh trump, right?
Yes.
So he's going, the last 3.5 years, these Gentiles with the Antichrist are going to trodden down Jerusalem until the time of the Gentiles, or till the seventh trump is fulfilled. Now Daniel puts it this way. He says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And look what he says. And there shall be a what?
Time of trouble.
Such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So we have 4 different versions here of what that's going to be like. We have great tribulation, we have affliction, we have great distress, and we have a time of trouble such as never was. All right. Now, this is going to, I'm going to give you one more version, okay? In Revelation 12, this is the version John gives. He says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having what?
Great wrath.
Because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And I'm going to prove to you that that short time is 3.5 years, okay? So we have a time of trouble. We have the devil's there's great wrath. And so those are kind of the 5 descriptions that we're going to get as far as a general overview of what those 3.5 years are going to be like. Now, so let me show you something. He says the book of Revelation begins with this. This is the revelation of who? Jesus Christ, right?
Yes.
Which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and he signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So he's giving this revelation to John, right?
Right.
And now look what John does, because John is the one actually what? He's writing it down, right?
Yes.
And it says that he bear record, right? Now look what the word bear means. We know what it is because we hear that term bare naked, right?
Right.
To bear something it is no longer concealed. If you conceal yourself with clothes and you take your clothes off, now you are bare. If you have truth and it has been concealed, and now it is you bearing that truth, it is no longer what? Concealed. Now record, what is record? It is to register, to enroll, to write or enter in a book or on parchment for the purpose of what?
Preserving authentic, correct
Or
evidence.
correct evidence of a thing. So that is what John is doing. He's taking evidence, he's taking correct evidence, right? The truth, and he is what? He is making sure he's bearing record. He's making it sure that it is no longer concealed from us, because he's actually what? He's writing it down, right?
Right.
So that's what he's doing. He's bearing record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now, testimony is a solemn declaration or affirmation made for the purpose of establishing or proving somewhat.
Facts.
So that's what this is. The testimony, this book of Revelation, is proving fact. Such affirmation in judicial proceedings may be verbal or written, but must be under oath. Testimony, right, because this is the definition of testimony, differs from evidence. Testimony is the declaration of a witness, And evidence is the effect of that declaration, right? So he is bearing record not just of the word of God, but of the what? The testimony of Christ.
Mhm.
So this is Christ's testimony in this book.
Right.
This revelation is from Christ, and John is now putting it in a book. He's bearing record of it, right? And this is the testimony of Christ. Now look at this. From Jesus Christ, who is the faithful what?
Witness.
Because a witness is the one that gives the what?
Testimony.
And it says that Christ is a faithful witness. Now, what he says in Proverbs, a faithful witness, guess what?
Not lie.
Will not lie. So we are establishing the fact that every single word, every period, every comma, everything in this book is from a witness, right? It is the testimony of Christ. And guess what? It is impossible for him
To lie.
to lie. And he says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him, and this is the purpose, is to show unto his servants the things which must shortly come to pass. And for all those people out there, all those churches that don't think it is a necessary thing to study Revelation, to study prophecy, Christ puts a blessing upon it. He says, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written therein. You know why?
The time is at hand.
The time is at hand. We are living in that time. And so therefore you should not ignore prophecy. You should not ignore the book of Revelation, because if you do that, guess what? Just like a thief in the night, he's going to come upon you and you're not going to be ready.
Right.
All right. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be a general overview of this last 3.5 years. And then we'll start getting into details next week. We'll get a little bit of details this week. But so this is the prophecy in Daniel, and we've talked about this, right? We've talked about the 70 weeks, and these things that are in parentheses these are from me. Okay, this is not the scripture. We know that. Remember, we determined that the 70 weeks are 490 years, and we determined the 490 years was because when they were in Babylon, the punishment was supposed to be what? 70 years.
Yes.
But the curse was poured upon them because they did not repent. They did not turn back toward their God, and therefore the curse was poured upon them, which was written in the books of Moses, right? Which said that they would be punished 7 times for their sins, right?
Right.
So 7 times 70 is, and that's where we come with that number. So he says these 490 years are determined upon thy people, the Israelites, and upon the holy city, Jerusalem, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and the prophecy. So all these 490 years, Israel right now is in a time of punishment, and they will be until these 490 years are what? Are done.
Yes.
And the sealing up of this vision includes all of these things, right? To finish the transgression, to make an end to sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. So he goes on, he says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. So 7 of the 70 weeks, or 49 years, and 62 weeks, which is 434 years. Now, I don't want to confuse y'all, so we're not going to talk about this whole 490 years. But understand that when this 434 years, which has been fulfilled, because guess what? It says that the Messiah, after 434 years, guess what?
Cut off.
Was Messiah cut off for the people? Yes. So we know that that 434 years has been fulfilled. And he says, after that, and after this, there's going to be 7 years left of the 490.
Right.
And that's where we're going to begin today. He says, and he, the Antichrist, is going to confirm the covenant with many for how long?
1 week.
Or 7 years. This will be the last 7 years before Christ, the day of the Lord.
Right.
But this is specifically what we're going to be talking about. He says, and in the midst of the week, now look what the word midst means. Contracted from midst, or the superlative of mid, which means what? The middle. Somewhere in the middle of this 7 years, right? Which will be about 3.5 years in.
Right.
This Antichrist is going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to what?
Cease.
Now, an oblation is not necessarily the animal sacrifice. It can be anything offered or presented in worship or sacred service, right? In other words, in the temple, I mean, they didn't just offer the blood of the animal and the blood of the animal. They had what? They had oil, they had incense, they had what? They had showbread, right?
Right.
And so all of this, at the beginning of this 7 years, the Antichrist is going to confirm that holy covenant that Israel has with God, and Israel is going to begin to start offering sacrifices again, right?
Right.
And halfway through that, guess what? The Antichrist is going to cause that to what?
Stop.
To cease, right? And for the overspreading of abominations, he's going to make it desolate, which we call the abomination of desolation. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, okay? So this is the 3.5 years. This is what we're going to be talking about for however long it takes. And why is that important? It's because those 3.5 years lead up to the day of the Lord, which we already have a general understanding of. And this is going to, understanding these 3.5 years is going to enable you to know more signs so that the day doesn't come upon you unaware. So we've already learned this, right? The fifth trumpet is the what? The first woe. And the sixth trumpet is the second woe, and the seventh trumpet is the third woe. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you when the Great Tribulation, what it starts with, okay, when it begins, okay? Because I'm going to show you that it begins with the fifth trumpet and the first woe. Now, what that's going to tell you is the first 4 trumpets are going to be in the first 3.5 years, and the last 3 trumpets, or the 3 woes, will be in the last 3.5 years before Christ comes back. Okay, so watch this. This is what begins the Great Tribulation, the last 3.5 years, war in heaven. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against who?
The dragon.
The dragon. And the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more where?
In heaven.
In heaven. So the dragon, we know who the dragon is, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth. So when Michael has war with Satan, there's no place found in heaven for him anymore, or his angels. And guess what he's going to be? They're going to do what? They're going to cast him out, right? And it says he was cast out where?
Into the earth.
Into the earth. And his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come the salvation. Now has come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the devil, or the accuser of our brethren, because that's what he does. He accuses us before God day and night. Is that not what he did with Job?
Yes.
He went before God, and he's always accusing us. Well, guess what? That ends right here.
Right.
The accuser of our brethren is no longer allowed in heaven. He's no longer allowed to come before God and accuse us anymore. You know why? He is what?
Cast down.
He's cast down. He is cast out into the earth, and he's cast down, which accuse them before our God day and night. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they love not their lives unto the death. Now look what he says. Since he is cast out of heaven to never be able to go back, therefore rejoice who?
Yes.
So the people in heaven are going to rejoice because they don't want him there no more, right?
Right.
He says, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, in the heavens. But look what he says. He says, woe to the inhabitants of what?
The earth.
And of the sea. Why? Because the devil he's been cast out, and he has come down unto you having what?
Great wrath.
And why does he have great wrath? Because he knoweth that he hath but what?
Short time.
And I'm going to prove to you that that's 3.5 years. He's only got a short time. Now, what I'm going to show you guys is right up here. Watch this. The fifth trumpet, we know the fifth trumpet is the what? Is the first woe, right?
Yes.
Now, I want you to look at this term that he uses right here. He doesn't call it the fifth trumpet, and he doesn't call it the first woe. But look at the word he uses right here. He says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. So, let's look. The first 4 trumpets have been blown, right? And now look what he says. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to what?
The inhabitants of the earth.
Look what he said up here. He says what? He just uses one woe. You know why he uses one woe? Well, down here, when he uses 3 woes, he's using this because there are what? The trumpet there, he says that by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels, which are what?
Sound.
In other words, he's saying there are 3 trumpets left to sound, the 5th, 6th, and the 7th, and all 3 of them are woes. So he uses 3 woes here. But here he uses 1 woe because guess what just happened?
The first word was
The 5th trumpet just what?
that sound.
Blew. Yeah, it just sounded. But it doesn't say it sounded. But what you can do is when you go over to the 5th angel, guess what you see? The 5th angel sounded, and guess what?
Saw a star fall from heaven.
You saw a star fall. So guess who that is?
Like,
that is Satan. That is the exact same thing that he's talking here. Because when he is cast down, guess what he says to them?
whoa.
Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Because guess what? One of these 3 trumpets just what? Sounded. Now, do y'all see that, or do I need to go a little bit deeper into? Do y'all understand that?
Yes.
So, because this right here, right, even though it doesn't say it's the 5th trumpet, if you go over here, you realize that it's the 5th trumpet. All he's doing is giving you the details of what happens. This is the star, right? He says he was cast out into the earth. That is the star. That is Satan falling from heaven, right? He's cast down. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil is come down unto you, right? And that's what we see in Revelation 9:1. This is the 5th angel, or the first woe, and here is Satan falling from where?
Heaven.
Unto where?
The earth.
And that's what he says. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. All right. Now, I'm going to show you something else that happens at that time, because we just learned before he falls, there is what?
War.
There's war in heaven, and Michael is going to fight with guess who? The devil and his angels.
Right.
So when you go to Daniel 12, he's talking about the same thing. At that time shall who?
Michael.
He's going to stand up. Now, who is he standing up for? Well, he is the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. See, Daniel is an Israelite, isn't he?
Yes.
And he's telling them that Michael is the prince which stands for the children of thy people, which are the Israelites, right? Now look what it says. He is the prince which standeth for the children of thy people. Look what that word stand means. To be in or to maintain a posture of resistance or defense, to maintain to what?
Defend.
Listen, it doesn't mean there's not persecution, but at this point in the world, Michael is defending, he is restraining evil. It doesn't have full course, right? In other words, the devil's still doing things, but guess what? Michael is contending with him. He's fighting with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen at this time, Michael's going to stand up, right? He's the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And guess what's going to happen after he stands up and fights with the devil? There's going to be a what?
Time of trouble.
There's going to be, that's the 3.5 years. That's when Satan is cast out of heaven, right?
Right.
So now look, watch this. So Gabriel is talking to Daniel. He said, then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now I, Gabriel, will return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. Now look what Gabriel says to Daniel. I'm going to show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth, that there is none that holdeth with me. In other words, there's none that holdeth with me, Gabriel, in these things, but guess who?
Michael.
Michael, your what?
Prince.
The great prince, which what? Standeth for the children of the people, the great prince, which what? Defends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Israel. So Gabriel says, there's none that does it. There's none that holds with me. Now look what hold means. To restrain. In general, it means to restrain. But look what also it means. To what?
Defend.
It means to defend. And that's what he does, right? He standeth or he defends the children of Israel, right?
Right.
He restrains, he is restraining right here, to defend or to restrain. And right now, he is restraining evil because the devil hates, listen, the devil hates all human beings, but
Yes.
in particular, the devil hates Israel.
Yes.
Okay? He wants to kill all of Israel. So this is what we learned, that Michael is the protector of Israel. He restrains evil, right? Look what it says about him here. Michael the archangel, when what? Contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, and Moses is an Israelite, right? Michael and the devil are always contending with one another, okay? Right. And so something is going to happen right here. When this war between Michael, right here. So when this war happens between Michael and the devil, and Michael casts the devil out of heaven, right?
Right.
Something is going to happen. The devil is going to go down there, right? Knowing he's got a short time, knowing that he's going to pour out this great wrath upon the inhabitants of the earth, because he warns the earth, right? Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. But let me show you what happens with Michael, okay? With Michael, because Michael right now is the only thing that is restraining the devil from trying to destroy Israel, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now watch what happens. Oops, sorry. So, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and by our gathering together unto him. Now, we just spent 8 weeks talking about this. This is the day of the Lord, and this is talking about our gathering together unto him, which is the seventh trump, right?
Yes.
He says, we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and by our gathering together unto him, that you be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as the day of Christ is at hand. The day of Christ is at hand. The day of the coming of our Lord is at hand. The gathering together unto him is at hand. And look what Paul says to the Thessalonians. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, the coming of the Lord, the day of Christ, the day we are gathered to him, that day shall not come except. So he's going to tell you, because think about it, this is what we're trying to figure out. We want to know some of the signs so the day doesn't come upon us unaware. Right. He just let you know that that day is not going to come except some things happen, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to take heed to these and know that they're going to happen. So when they happen, guess what? That is a sign to you that you're getting closer. So the day will not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin, talking about the Antichrist, be what? Revealed. So he's saying that you're going to know that you're getting close to the day of the Lord when the Antichrist is revealed, right? The son of perdition, right? Who opposeth, and he what? Exalteth himself. So he's going to exalt himself above all that is called God or that is worship. Now here's how he does it. So that he, as God, he's going to do what? So that tells you something else. Is there a temple in Jerusalem right now? No. So when the temple gets built, then that's going to be another sign that what? That he's getting ready. That it's getting close, because the Antichrist is going to actually have to sit in the temple of God, showing that himself that what? He is God. That he is God. He's going to exalt himself, right? And this is what we call the abomination of desolation. Now look what he says. He says, remember you not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. And now you know what is being withheld. Right. Okay. What is being withheld? That the man of sin might be what? Revealed. So here's how you know he's going to be revealed. He's going to sit in the temple, and he's going to show himself that he is God. And now, guess what? All of us know what is being held back, that he might be what? Revealed in his temple. What is it that's being held back? He has to actually go into the temple and what? That is called the abomination of desolation. Right. So you're going to know that it's him. You're going to know he's going to be revealed when he goes into the temple and sits in the temple, showing himself that he is God. He's going to exalt himself as God. And so he goes on. He says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, right? So what he's saying is, when whoever this is that is letting, when he's taken out of the way, then then guess what? Shall the wicked be what? Revealed. And we know the wicked is revealed by going into the temple, right? Right. So until this person, whoever this is that letteth, is taken out of the way, not until then will the Antichrist go into the temple and be revealed. Okay? So now look at the word let. He who now letteth will let. Okay? Look what it means. To withhold what? Restraint. Restraint. Guess what the word hold means? To restrain, right? Yes. And that is exactly what Michael does. He defends and he restrains evil from Israel. But once, guess who? When Michael, he who now letteth will let until what? He's taken out of the way. When's he going to be taken away? Well, there's going to be war in heaven. And when he casts the devil down, guess what?
Michael,
He is no longer going to be there to what?
to defend.
Yeah, he's no longer going to be there to restrain evil. So the devil knows that when he's cast down, right, he only has a very short period of time, and he is going to unleash evil, and there will be nothing in the world to guess what?
Holding back.
Or to restrain him, right? All right. So do y'all see that? Y'all understand that? I sometimes I make things too complicated.
No.
Okay. So here's what happens next. After the war in heaven, the devil's cast down. Michael is no longer there to restrain. So the next thing that you're going to see is that the devil is going to enter into the Antichrist, okay?
Right.
And that's going to happen. That's the reason, right? That's the reason after the devil enters into him, then he's going to go into the temple, right? So when he's cast down, guess what? He says, then Michael's taken out, and then the wicked shall be revealed, because he asked Satan, when Satan enters into the Antichrist, you're going to have the devil walking around in the flesh.
Right.
Okay, watch this. He says, so we know that the devil can enter into someone, can't we?
Yes.
He says, then enter Satan into who?
Judas.
So that's the same thing that he's going to do. The devil is going to enter into the Antichrist. Daniel says it this way. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance, talking about the Antichrist, and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Now look what it says. This king, this fierce king, and his power shall be what? Mighty.
Right.
But guess what?
Not his own power.
But it's not his own power. I'm going to show you where he gets it from. And he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper in practice. And guess what he's going to do? He shall because there is no more restraint, guys.
Right.
He shall destroy the mighty and the what?
Holy people.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall what?
Magnify himself.
To the point, he's going to sit in the temple and say that he is God. And it says, and by peace shall destroy many. But guess what? In the end, he's going to stand up against who?
Princess.
But he shall be broken without hand. So in the end, when he stands up against Christ, he will be broken. So now it says right here, his power, the Antichrist power, is what? Not by his what? Own power. So let's look. We have a description of the devil. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, and we already know that's Satan. And now this is what Satan looks like, having what?
7 heads,
and 10 horns. Now look at this. This is the beast. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a what?
Beast rise up.
And guess what he has?
7 heads, 10 horns.
So did you notice something? The devil has what?
7 heads and 10 horns.
And guess what? So what's the difference between them?
None.
None. They look the same, and there's a reason, right?
Right.
Remember what it said? Remember what Jesus said about himself? He says, Jesus saith unto him, have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? Now look this is what the Son says. He that hath seen me, the Son, have what?
Father.
It's going to be the same way with the devil, because look what the devil is called. He says, you are of your father who?
The devil.
And the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he, the devil, is a liar and what?
The father of it.
So the devil is the father, and guess what the Antichrist says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed. And guess what he is? The son of perdition. So the devil is the father, and the Antichrist is the what?
Son.
So when you've seen the son, guess who you've seen?
The Father.
You've seen the Father. That's why when you look at the beast, he has 7 heads and 10 horns. And when you look at the devil, he has what?
7 heads and 10 horns.
Because even though they're different, they are what? What did Jesus say about him and his Father? I and my Father are what?
One.
One. So when the devil enters into the Antichrist, when you've seen the Son, you've seen the who?
The Father.
That will literally be when the devil is cast down to this earth, knowing he's got a short time, he is going to literally enter into the Antichrist, and the devil will have complete and total control of this world. And guess what? No restraint.
Right.
There will be nothing to restrain his evil for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Now watch this. And I'm going to show you. He says, look what he says. And they worshipped who?
The dragon.
And look what it says. Which did what?
Gave power to the beast.
And they worshipped who?
The beast.
So when they worship the dragon, guess who else they're worshiping?
The beast.
So to worship one, to worship the Father is to worship who? The Son. And to worship the Son is to worship the Father. And where did the beast, the Antichrist, get his power from?
From Satan.
Yeah, it says the dragon which gave power to who?
The beast.
And that's what he says up here in Daniel, right? He says, and his power shall be mighty, but not by what? His own power. So the beast, the Antichrist, received his power from who? The dragon which what?
Gave him power.
Unto the Antichrist, or the beast. So that's where he receives the power.
Right.
It says, and the devil, taking him up into a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world, talking about Christ in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, guess what? All this power will I what?
Give thee.
Well, of course he will, because it's delivered unto him. He has the power. He has the ability to give power unto people, right? And that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to give his power unto the beast, right?
Right.
That's what he says in Revelation 13:2. He says, and the beast, which I saw, was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And look what it says. And the dragon did what?
Gave him power.
And his seat and great authority. So literally, what's going to happen is war in heaven. Satan is cast down, knowing he's got a short time. Michael is taken out of the way. There's no restraint of evil. The devil is going to go into the Antichrist, and then the devil in the flesh is going to go into the temple and say, guess what? He's going to magnify himself, right? And say, I'm God.
Right.
And there's going to be no restraint to stop him. You're going to worship him, or you're going to what?
Die.
You're going to die. Now, that's not where all his power ends, because the Antichrist and the devil, which are really one, right? When you look at one, both of them are there. Look what he says. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and what?
10 horns.
Now, on those horns, I want you to see what's on the horns. And upon his horn, what?
10 crowns.
And this is what they represent. These 10 horns are going to represent, these 10 horns have 10 crowns. This is what they represent. The 10 horns which thou sawest are what?
10 kings.
Now, they have not received no kingdom as yet. But guess what? They receive power. Now, who do you think they're going to get that power from?
From Satan.
From Satan. They receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they're going to get to rule with the Antichrist, right?
Right.
He says these kings, they have one mind, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to give their power and their strength unto who?
The beast.
So these kings are going to give their power. Now, their power is, listen, they rule over countries. Those countries have armies.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who's going to have complete, total control?
Satan.
So since it's the beast, and we know the beast is Satan, Satan will have complete, total control over these great powers of the earth, their armies, right, with nothing to restrain him.
Right.
Now it goes on and says these 10 kings, the beast and these 10 kings and their armies are going to make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall what? Overcome them.
Yes.
But I want you to understand, for 3.5 years, Satan will be in the flesh, and he will have complete, total control and power with nothing to restrain him. When I say nothing to restrain him, there will be one thorn in his flesh, and we'll talk about them soon, and that's going to be the 2 witnesses, okay?
Right.
Now, so look what happens. He says, and he, the Antichrist, is going to confirm that holy covenant with Israel for 7 years, right? With many for 1 week. And then we know in the middle of the week, he's going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he's going to make it desolate. So halfway through, see, first he confirms the covenant for 7 years. But then in the middle of the 7 years, 3.5 years into it, he is going to cause the sacrifices to stop, and he's going to commit the abomination of desolation, okay?
Right.
He's going to do it in the middle of the 7 years. And that's what we see. He says the man of sin is going to be revealed when he does what? He sits in the temple, showing himself that he is what?
Right.
And so now you know what's being held back, that he'll be revealed, and that is the fact that he's got to sit in the temple, and then it will be what? It will be revealed.
Right.
And then look what he says. Then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with what?
Oh, power.
And signs and lying wonders. So the beast will get all of his power, all the signs and the lying wonders, and all that power is going to come from, guess who?
Satan.
That's important to know, guys, because some believers think that all miracles are going to be coming from who? And if you don't realize that Satan has power and signs and lying wonders, guess what'll happen to you?
You'll be deceived.
You'll be deceived. All right. So let's look. Talk about the abomination of desolation. He says, and both these kings, and we're going to get into some details we're not going to discuss. We're just going to concentrate on the abomination. He says, and both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they're going to speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he, right, return into his land with great riches. Now, talking about the Antichrist, look what it says, because he confirmed, right, that holy covenant with Israel for 7 years, right?
Right.
But guess what? His heart shall be what?
Yes, the holy covenant.
Against it. And he's going to do exploits and return to his own land. And at the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or the latter. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return. And guess what? The Antichrist shall have what?
Indignation.
Against what?
The holy covenant.
So he confirms the covenant he confirms the covenant with Israel for 7 years, but his heart is going to be against the holy covenant. He's going to have indignation against the Holy Covenant, right? He says he shall even return, and he's going to have intelligence with them that what?
Forsake the Holy
The
Covenant.
Holy Covenant. And so this is going to be around the middle of the tribulation, right? Because for 3.5 years, he deals with them doing the sacrifices and the oblations, and then he's going to have indignation. His heart's going to be against that covenant. And guess what it says? And arms, because guess what? The 10 kings are going to give what? Their power and strength unto him, right?
Yes.
And arms are going to stand on his part, right?
Yes.
And they're going to pollute the sanctuary of strength. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to take away the what? So we know when this is going to happen, right? Because he's going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, right? He's going to have indignation against the covenant. He's going to take away the daily sacrifice, and he's going to place the abomination that what? That maketh desolate. And he says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. The ones who forsake the Holy Covenant, the ones that do wickedly against the Holy Covenant, the Antichrist is going to corrupt them by flatteries. But the true people of God that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits.
Yes.
So you can see him already halfway through beginning to do what? To having indignation against that covenant that he confirmed that covenant with Israel. Now he's beginning to what? To turn away from that, and he's getting ready to get all those arms that are on his part to go in there and pollute the sanctuary and to take away the daily sacrifice and to set up the abomination that maketh desolate, okay?
Right.
All right, so does everyone understand that?
Yes.
All right. So then we come to Matthew. Now we know when this takes place, in the midst of the week, right? He says he's going to confirm the covenant, and in the midst of the week, he's going to cause the oblation, the sacrifices to cease, and he's going to set up the abomination which maketh desolate. So we know that this is 3.5 years in. So let us kind of review. War in heaven. The devil's cast down, knowing he's got but a short time. Michael the restrainer, all restraints taken out of the world, right? The devil is going to enter into, guess what? The Antichrist. Those kings are going to give their power and their strength unto who? The beast, which is the devil, right? And then those armies are going to go in and they're going to take away they're going to take away the sacrifices, right?
Yes.
And they're going to set up the abomination that maketh desolate.
Right.
And so Matthew is going to tell the Israelites that are in Jerusalem, he's going to tell them something. When you therefore shall see the what?
Abomination of desolation.
Spoken of by who?
Okay.
Stand in the holy place. When he goes in there and he like exalts himself and says, I am God, and he stops those sacrifices, right? And those oblations. He says, when you see that, he says, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea, those that are in Israel, those that are in Jerusalem, what do you need to do?
Lead to the mountains.
You know why? He says, let them which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. He says, woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. He says, pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then, when you see this, flee, get out of Jerusalem, get out of Judea, for then shall be what?
Great tribulation.
See, understand something, guys. You're not going, if you're here, you're not going to see the war in heaven, are you? No, that's a spiritual thing that's going on. You don't see those things. So the thing that you're going to have to see is when he goes into that temple and says, he exalts himself as God, and they take away the what? the daily sacrifice, you're going to know that guess what? There are going to be 3.5 years left till the Lord comes back.
Right.
And that's why he tells you up here in Thessalonians, right? And now you know what withholdeth, right? Let me find the verse. I think it's okay. The day of Christ is okay. He says, "For that day shall not come except." Say, except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed. So guess what? He's telling you the day of the Lord cannot come except the man of sin be revealed. So guess what? In Matthew, right? In Matthew, when he starts giving you these things, guess what? He says, the day of the Lord cannot come except there come a falling away, and the man of sin be revealed. Well, when you see the abomination of desolation, guess what's just happened? The man of sin has been what?
Revealed.
So the day of the Lord now can come, right?
Yes.
But before it comes, guess what? There's going to be what?
Great tribulation.
Such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophets. And listen, you got to understand this. And those false Christ and those false prophets shall what?
Signs and
They're going to show great signs and wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And look what Jesus tells you. Behold, I have told you before. I'm telling you before it happens, so that when it happens, you're going to know that this is not from me.
Right.
These great signs and wonders you see, guess what? That's of the devil.
Right.
Don't let it deceive you. Mark puts it this way. He says, when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then when you see it, then let them which be in Judea do what? Flee to the mountains. And let him that is on the housetop not go down into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. And let him that is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. But woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And pray ye that your flight be not in winter. For in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created unto this time, neither shall be. And except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he has shortened the days. And then, if any man shall say to you, look what he just said. If any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, don't believe him. Because there's going to be men that are going to rise up, false Christ and false prophets. They're going to rise up and they're going to show what? Signs and wonders for a purpose. You know what it is?
Seduction.
To seduce you, to trick you. That if it were possible, even though they're going to seduce the elect. Now look what Jesus says. But take ye heed, believer. Behold, I have what? All things. I'm telling you everything, all things, so that you can't be tricked. I'm telling you all things so that you're going to know when I'm coming back.
Right.
He says, but in those days, right? After that, what? Okay, so here it is. The abomination of desolation happens. He says, get out of Jerusalem, get out of Judea. Then, because great tribulation's coming, affliction's coming, right? He says, this is the tribulation. This is the affliction. And then look what he says. If you can make it through those 3.5 years, he says, after that 3.5 years, after that tribulation, guess what? The sun shall be dark and the moon shall not give a light, right? So we know where we're at now, right? We're at the day of the Lord, because when you see it get dark and there's a great earthquake, guess what's getting ready to happen? Heaven's getting ready to open up, right? Before this sun is darkened right here, guess what? These two witnesses are going to die, and they're going to what? They're going to ascend into heaven. And that same hour, it's going to be an earthquake and it's going to go dark.
Yes.
So all these things are going to happen from the abomination of the desolation, right, until it goes dark, is what we call the Great Tribulation. All right, so do y'all all understand that?
Yes.
And this Great Tribulation, this 3.5 years in Scripture, is used in 3 different terms, okay? Now, I can't tell you exactly why I think I have an idea of why he uses 3 different terms, but all 3 terms are talking about the same period, general period of time, the last 3.5 years, okay?
Right.
Sometimes he refers to it as this many days. 1,260 days is 3.5 years. 42 months is 3.5 years. And sometimes he uses this term right here. A time means 1 year. Times means 2 years. And so half a time would be what?
3.
Would be a half a year, right? So here's 2 years plus 1 year plus what? A half a year. So that equals 3.5. When you see that term, that equals 3.5 years. So all of these terms equal 3.5 years.
Right.
And this is all going to take place. Now let's say it, go through it one more time, and then I will close. There's going to be war in heaven.
Right.
The accuser of our brethren, the devil, is going to be cast down to this earth, knowing that he have but a short time. And since Michael is taken out, he will have no restraint. He will go into the person of Antichrist, the beast.
Right.
He will then enter into the temple. He's going to use those arms, right? That are going to, because those 10 kings are going to give him power. He's going to use those arms to pollute the sanctuary and to take away the daily sacrifice, right? And when you see that happen, he says, get out of Jerusalem, get out of Judea, because guess what? The worst time ever in the world, there's never been a time like it, and there'll never be another time like it afterwards. So for the next 3.5 years until Moses and Elijah ascend up into heaven, guess what? It's going to be bloodshed.
Right.
It's going to be death. It's going to be slavery. So let's look at those 3 terms and we'll close. He says, and I'm going to give power unto my 2 witnesses. And we're going to talk about these. And they are going to prophesy, guess what? 1,260 days, which is right here, 3.5 years.
Right.
Why is that important? Well, we already talked about this. So if you know that they're going to be around for 3.5 years, and we already know that they're going to die at the end of the what? At the end of the Great Tribulation, right? Before they ascend to heaven, they're going to die and they're going to be dead for 3.5 days. So that means their ministry has been going on for 3.5 years. Well, guess what? The devil was cast down, right? Knowing he's got a short time, and guess what? How long he has?
3.5 years.
He has 3.5 years. So guess where those 2 witnesses are? Guess what those 2 witnesses are going to be doing for 3.5 years? Just the same thing that Moses and Aaron were doing with Pharaoh. And we'll talk about that later, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be around to contend with the devil or the beast.
Right.
He says, and the woman, and we'll talk about who this is later, fled into the wilderness, because when you see the abomination of desolation, he says, flee to the mountains, flee to the wilderness, right?
Yes.
And the woman is going to flee into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of God that they should feed her. How long? 3.5 years. So when you see the abomination of desolation, that's what, whoever this woman is, she is going to flee into the wilderness. She's going to flee into the mountains for guess how long?
3.5 years.
The last 3.5 years before the Great Tribulation is over. Now let me give you another one. The court, which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto who?
Gentiles.
So think about it. He confirms the covenant with many for 7 years, right? And then remember, he has indignation against the covenant, right? He is secretly talking to those that despise that covenant he made with Israel, right?
Right.
And so so what are they going to do? They're going to bring their armies in, and they're going to basically stop the oblation and the sacrifices, right? And then Jerusalem, if all Israelites are trying to flee out of Jerusalem, guess who's going to have Jerusalem? It is given unto who?
The Gentiles.
And the holy city shall they tread down underfoot. How long? 40 or 3.5 years. So when the abomination of desolation happens, you can expect that the Gentiles, under the rule of the Antichrist, is going to rule in Jerusalem. How long? 3.5 years. So now let's look at another one. They worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who's like the Antichrist, right? Who can make war with him? Because we're not even talking about the fact that he's getting his power from the devil. But not only is he getting his power from the devil, guess what? The kings of the earth have given him what? Their power and their strength. And there's given unto him, to the beast, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto the beast. And guess what? How long? To continue how long?
3.5 years.
That's how long they're going to tread Jerusalem underfoot. The beast is going to have power to continue for 42 months or 3.5 years. And he's going to open his mouth and blaspheme against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him, to the beast, because he gets his power from the devil. He's got the powers of the kings of the earth. He's got their armies, and guess what he's going to do? It's given unto him to make war with who?
Saints.
And to do what?
Overcome them.
That's why I said it's going to be the worst time in the history of the world. There's never been a time like it, and there'll never be another time like it afterward. And he's going to make war with the saints, and he's going to overcome them. And power was given him over, look what it says. The beast is going to have power over all kindreds and tongues and what?
Nations.
The entire world. The devil, think about this. It is his world already, but he's now going to be in flesh, no restraint, and he's going to have power over the entire world. And guess what? He's going to make war with believers, with Israel and with saints.
Yes.
I'll give you one more. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, okay, we know how long he's got, a short time, 3.5 years.
Right.
He is going to persecute this woman, right, who's fleeing into the wilderness. He's going to persecute the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might what?
Fly to the wilderness.
She's going to go into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for, guess what?
3.5 years.
3.5 years from who? The face of the serpent, because the devil is going to possess the Antichrist, who is going to be ruling in Jerusalem. And God, if you can get out of Jerusalem and get into the wilderness, get into the mountains, God says he is going to provide nourishment for you for how long?
3.5 years.
For 3.5 years. He says, and I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the rivers, when he held up his right hand and his left hand into heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time and times and a half. So for 3.5 years. And when he, the Antichrist, shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, at the end of that 3.5 years, guess what? All things shall be finished.
Done.
And so finally, I'm going to close with this verse, and we'll recap real quick. We know who the 10 horns are. This is Daniel talking about it. This is not John. This is Daniel. He says the 10 horns out of this kingdom are what?
10 kings.
These are the same 10 kings that are given power to the beast. And he says, that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And this Antichrist, he's going to speak great words against the Most High. And guess what he's going to do?
Wear out the saints.
He's going to wear out the saints. Up here, he says he's going to do what? He's going to make war with who?
Saints.
And to overcome them. Here he says he's going to wear out the saints of the Most High, and he's going to think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until 3.5 years, a time and times and a dividing of time. So here's what we understand about this period. It begins with war in heaven. Michael cast out the devil. Michael, the restrainer, is out of the way now. The devil's come down, no restraint. He enters into the Antichrist. He is in the flesh. Right now, the devil comes to you in your mind. You know that? He whispers to you, right? He tempts you. But now he is actually going to have a body.
Right.
And when you see the beast, when you see the Antichrist, guess who you see? When you see the Father, you see the what? When you see the Son, you see the Father, right?
Right.
And he is going to demand, because he's going to sit in that temple showing himself that he's God. And he is going to he's not going to go like he did to Jesus and say, I'll give you this if you bow down to me. That's not what he's going to do anymore. You know what he's going to do? He's not going to tell you he's going to give you anything. You're going to have to what? Bow down to him or die.
Yes.
Because there's nothing to what? Restrain him.
Right.
And he is going to, for 3.5 years, he is going to wear out the saints of the Most High. And the only opposition that he's going to have are 2 men, the 2 witnesses. All right, so that's just kind of a general overview, guys, of what I think is going to happen those last 3.5 years. Does anybody have any questions, comments?